Everything stands out about Texas. There's not a weakness in their game. They've got great pitching, a really dynamic, productive offense, and they play great defense. Super athletic. They run. They're strong. They're fast. I haven't found a weakness yet, so it's going to be a real challenge, But I think we kind of like the underdog role. We went into Oklahoma with a nothing to lose mindset, and that's the mindset we need to have this weekend.
Is there anything at this point in the season, you guys are deep into SEC play, that you're really looking for them to show you that you haven't quite seen yet?
I'm just looking for us to be consistent with some of the things that we are starting to develop. So in the last 2 weeks, I think we've done a much better job of understanding how to bring consistent energy to the game and understanding that energy is a byproduct of us being focused on the right things in the game and communicating at a really high level. And when we do that, the energy is outstanding. And so we're recognizing now what it takes, and now it's just a matter of us showing up and doing that every day. I think we've, in the last 2 weeks, been more resilient in our response. If you looked early in the season and we got down early in games, we didn't win those games. And we've had a couple games here the last 2 weeks where we got down, or you look at last Saturday where, we took a beating in game 1 and we didn't let that affect us in game 2. So I'm proud of that. Those are just traits that we're going to need to bring to the field consistently if we want to be in the mix at the end.
What kind of stress does it put on your pitchers when Texas has 5 batters that are batting or are getting on base better than 500% of the time?
Yeah. I mean, their top 6 OPS is over 1,000. And then, the 7, 8, 9 hitters, their still OPS is around 900. They're loaded. But, I think our pitching staff, they embrace those challenges. And again, I've got nothing to lose. Go out and just really let it fly and see what happens. So I think as a team, we're just excited for that challenge.
What do you think your team took away from that trip to Oklahoma that you can maybe apply to another tough, challenging road environment?
I think we took away that, you can let that environment work for you. So I think we just embraced playing in a great atmosphere and really just appreciating where women's softball is, that we're playing in stadiums that are packed, that are big, that are loud and noisy, and just having fun with that. And I think, again, our ability to respond in that kind of environment. And there was no moment at Oklahoma, especially Friday and Sunday, where we felt like we were out of it or, emotionally we were letting down.
In the moment, are you able to appreciate what Carlin has been able to do this season, or is that something that you might have to wait a few years to fully understand?
Probably it'll take a few years because what's so cool about her is just the day-to-day growth. And that's what I love as a coach, is just how can we get a little bit better today. I love struggle and adversity because I know that's going to make us better. And Carlin leans into that stuff. So with her, it's easy to get kind of caught in the moment, which is not a bad thing. And it'll probably take a while to step back and really appreciate those accomplishments. And, honestly, with Carlin, I mean, when she leaves Tennessee, the day she graduates, there's still a long future ahead of her in softball.
I know you talked about Carlin's growth last year to this year as a leader, but is there anything about when you watch her in games, especially in the SEC this season, that it feels different about her compared to last year?
One is kind of a technical thing, and I think it's her ability to dial up her changeup as often as she does. And not just the ability, but how she feels about her changeup now. And again, this speaks to Carlin. A year ago, she said, I throw it, but I want to love it as much as I've always loved my fastball. And for somebody who has thrown it with such high velo all those years, and the fastball was really kind of, the pitch she relied on, to make that a goal and then accomplish it is absolutely huge. And then the second thing is just when you watch her emotion in the circle. If you go back and look at video of Carlin her freshman year, you didn't see that kind of emotion. And I think the feelings were always inside of her, but for whatever reason, she had sort of suppressed them and thought, don't try to stand out. And what I like is she's not trying to stand out, she's just being who she is and just showing her absolute passion and joy for playing the game.
How hard is it to prepare for 2 pitchers as talented as Gutierrez and Cavan that you're playing in the same series, and how have you sort of approached that coming in?
Well, you forgot about Morgan. I mean, they've got a lot of pitchers, and Kavan stands out because of the innings pitched, just like Carlin stands out for us. And, I think that's what everyone's going to build up this weekend is that matchup. But, Morgan has one of the best and heaviest drop balls in the game. And Gutierrez, we saw her as a freshman here 2 years ago for Supers, and she was their ace back then. And she's got really electric stuff. So, yeah, there's no break. It's not like you say, oh, we got to the bullpen, now we're in good shape. The bullpen's pretty stout.
You mentioned walks contributing to innings being extended in Game 2 against Mississippi State, and maybe that contributing to greater damage. Well, Texas, they're a team that will take walks. I think they have almost 160 on the season. How much is that a part of the game plan heading into the weekend?
Oh, it's huge. You got to make them earn what they got, and they're good at doing that too. But if you allow them to get freebies, then that's how they can get rallies started. And not only do they have power, but they're really good at just putting the ball in play and finding holes. They have a lot of hitters that have just really good barrel control. So we're going to have to minimize any damage with walks or hit batters.
You talked about this a little bit last year, but just being able to coach Gabby and Alana after coaching their two older sisters, how full circle of a moment has that been over the last 2 years?
That's one where every once in a while I go, wow. How rare is that to be able to coach all four of them? And what's fun is they're all so different. Gabby and Alana, of course, are different, even though they're twins. Very different than Kelsey, very different than Aubrey. So it's pretty cool to be able to have them all be part of this program.
How exciting is it at this point in your career to still be experiencing the first, going to Texas, an SEC opponent? Is that, I guess, what is that like for you at this point to still be experiencing new things?
It's a lot of fun. That's why I do this. It keeps me young, I guess. The players are always going to be 18 to 22 years old. So they bring just a lot of excitement and just a lot of joy to my life. And every day, I'm a problem solver. So I love just waking up every day going, okay, how can we solve this problem? How can we get better at this? How do we tackle this? And, that's what keeps me energized. And, it's funny you mentioned that because when the schedule came out a year ago or more than that, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, you guys have to go to both Texas and OU. And we're the only team doing that. Seemed really daunting at first, but in my mind, it was like, that's a challenge. Let's go. And I love the way we responded to the challenge at OU, and hopefully the response will be similar at Texas.
Speaking of keeping you young, just what have stood out about the freshmen, halfway through their first SEC season, especially the ones who, are starting or being big contributors for you?
In the fall, as a coaching staff, we could see that they were going to contribute in a big way, but it was probably going to take time. And each of them was probably going to be on a little bit different timetable. And, if you had asked me September 1, do you project Savia Morgan to be in your starting lineup, I probably would have said no. And then she just kept every day getting better and better and better, just doing some really, really good things. But they've all done some amazing things for us. And when I say all, we've got 3 others who have been in the lineup on a somewhat regular basis with Ella Dodge and Emma Clark and Amaya Doyle. And it's crazy because, you look at Amaya, that 2-run shot at Oklahoma got us rolling. And then this past weekend, we used Emma a little bit more in the DP spot, and she did some really good things. And Ella's kind of locked down second base for us now. What's exciting about that class is they are high softball IQ people. And they're also high energy, positive attitude kind of people. Like they're the group that walks in this clubhouse every day with a smile on their face, a bounce in their step, and they're ready to go. And a saying I heard a while back from a coach is, I'd rather say whoa than go. And that's what you have to do with those guys.
Have you seen the evolution of the game when you've got players like Aaron who come in and contribute right away? And it's been like that for a few years. Just what has that been like for you, where you're not having to necessarily coach players up to be upperclassmen and contribute? They're coming in right away. What does that say about the game at the high school level right now?
Well, the game is very good and, much better than it was 10, 20 years ago at the high school travel ball level. I think it also says a lot about this program and the athletes we've had here because they're the ones that recruit. When people come here on a visit, the coaches are a big part of the recruiting process, but your athletes at the end of the day are the ones that are going to sell your program. And I think the women who've come through this program have done such a great job of developing themselves, both as players and people, and then they pass that along to the recruits, and we're able to get, really high-level recruits, kids who are really prepared to come in and compete right away.
You had a long talk with the team after the first inning in the game 2 against Mississippi State. What did you say in that conversation with the team, and do you think maybe that moment will help prepare them for Texas?
Basically just said blank happens, and we need to, at this moment, just, have quality at bats. This is a series. This isn't about one swing, one at bat, one game. And I really just want you to go in there and pass the bat, because that's the kind of team we need to become to achieve our goals, where we're not relying on any one person or a big swing at a given moment. Just everybody be productive and do something productive, and just stay in a one-pitch mindset.
The catcher-pitcher duo of Sophia Nugent and Carlin, when they're together out for a game, just how do you see that help Carlin specifically be able to do what she does in the circle?
I think that's an area where Soph's really grown this year. I think last year, Soph, might have been held back a little bit because she was new to the program and kind of just feel things out. And this year, I think she's really being herself. And I think the true Sophia plays with a lot of energy, a lot of determination, not afraid to say what she sees in the moment. And I think that's helped Carlin a ton. And there's just some really cool, video actually from the last 2 weeks where I can't even tell what she's saying, but I can see the look on her face and how animated and invested she is in that